Hey, what's up, everybody? I am back. This video is dedicated to the one pager. So this is option for all periods for the project for you guys to do for Copper Sun. All right. So most of you are probably wondering, what's the one pager? What's the one pager? Do I just write a page or something? Like, no, that's not what a one pager is. A one pager is basically if we were in school, we would have given you guys like some construction paper, some white construction paper, and had you guys to create, or not really create. We'd give you a rubric, and I'm gonna show you the rubric shortly. But we'd have you create something like this. So these are examples of one pagers. And Mrs. Pottenberg actually, her when I was her um, I was her student teacher, and that's where I learned about one pagers, and I love it. Like, I love doing a one pager because you can get so much information out of it, learn what you really know about the book. It's a really good tool for assessing. um, let's say you read a book, and we'll look at Fault of Our Stars real quick first. And as you can see here, you'll have a rubric that'll tell you what you're supposed to write about, and you just follow everything that's on the rubric. Okay. So for this one, apparently they needed to write, of course, you have to write the title. So this is The Fault in Our Stars. You have to write the author's name. That's usually a standard of what you have to do. And then there's just other stuff, like you have to do quotes. You have to ask questions and answer the questions. You have to have certain symbols. This one looks like they only wanted you to have one drawing. It has to be colorful. It has to look nice. Talk about imagery. This one looks like it's talking about um, parts of speech and um, imagery and things like that, metaphors, things of that nature. So that's what Fault of Our Stars look like they're wanting. The Great Gatsby, which I don't know if you guys, that'll be a high school story, especially around sophomore, junior year, that some of you may read, depending on what high school you go to. But again, The Great Gatsby, the author is probably somewhere on here. Quotes, what is the theme of the story? A lot of times the one pages have you do themes, but they basically look like this. Okay. This is like just standard what a one pager would look like. Now you can write this on a smaller piece of paper. So like if you have computer paper, you can just do it on that sheet. It'll just be smaller. We usually try to give you construction paper just because it looks a little bit it gives you more space to do more things with, basically, and you can make it look a little bit nicer. Sorry. But text it back, Mrs. Pottenberg. This is what they look like. Now, this is where I saw it at. The Outsiders, which was an eighth grade book that a lot of people, eighth graders, used to do a lot over the past years. It's a really good book. But this is a one pager for that. This is usually my go-to example. So you have The Outsiders, the title. You have the author, S.E. Hinton. Then you have a summary of the story written in a certain way. In the summary, and this stuff has to be extensive. Like, you just can't say Outsiders about a bunch of thugs who who fight these rich kids, and then one of them goes on the run after an incident, and he learns to appreciate his life. Like, it has to be, you have to go more into depth with the story, or with your summary, with your questions, things like that. So here we have a summary, a personal response, illustrations. They wanted illustrations. This is a picture here. We usually have for ours a few more pictures, especially for our more artsy students. Quotes, questions, vocabulary words. What do these things mean? What is this poem referencing? So there's a lot of stuff that you can get into it, and you put all of that into your one pager. So it's supposed to look really crowded and thick and full because you're putting a lot of stuff on there. It's supposed to look nice as well. This looks really nice, but it's a lot of information on here. A summary, quotes and questions, pictures. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what we want. Vocabulary words, quotes. Those are the type of things that we want on your one pager. Okay, so this is exactly what they look. This is pretty much what it'll look like. This is To Kill a Mockingbird. This one shows you there's way more pictures, or not way more, but 2-3 symbols or pictures they want you to have. Again, there's a summary somewhere over here, pictures, what it means to do certain things, quotes, things like that. So these are what one pagers look like. So if you want to Google one pagers or sample one pagers to get a better idea, you can, or you go to this video and pause it. Like I said, this is my go-to one because this one looks really nice. It's the one I like to use when I'm explaining one pagers. So now that we got that out the way, I am going to show you guys a rubric. Me and Mrs. Pottenberg will be putting this up on we will be putting this up on the LMS, so you will be able to see what the rubric says. Hold on, let me try to. Come on. Guess it won't let me. Sorry. You will be able to see what the rubric is going to be about, and you'll be able to pull it off and look at it and everything. But this is basically what it is. So your components, your categories, your one pager, you have to have the title and the author somewhere on the paper. You have to have a character list. You can write it anywhere. You can write it all in one line. You can write it in columns, however you want, but you need to write down 15 characters. You can easily write down 15 characters for Copper Sun. Okay. I mean, it's, Amari, Polly, Tibbet, Teeny, Mr. Derby, Clay, the Doctor. Like I just shot off several. All right. And there's way more than that. When you actually think about it, it seems daunting at first. When you actually think about it, you're like, oh yeah, I could do 15 like that. You probably do more than 15, honestly. You actually probably do like 20, 25, but we want at least 15 characters. Settings. You must have 7 settings. So that means where did this story take place at? Where are the different places your story took place? It took place at, the village, Ziavi. It took place on the slave ship. It took place at Cape Coast. All right. It took place at, you got the plantation and several other places where the story was at. And again, I just named off 3 or 4 easily, really quickly, just like that. Okay. So it's not difficult. Like you're seeing all this stuff on here. You're like, oh, Mr. Matthews, you Miss Pottenberg tripping. No. It's really not that hard. It's not that difficult. It's just showing you what you know. You may have to go back to the book and kind of look up stuff. You may forget things here and there because it's been so long, but you can easily do this. You know what I'm saying? You could jot these down real quick. Adjectives. You need 5 to describe character, story, or situations. Remember, an adjective is a word that describes a person, place, or thing. So, if something is short, all right, that's an adjective, short. For example, Amari is strong, like she's strong-willed. Strong is an adjective to describe someone. Polly is smart. That is a adjective to describe somebody. And I would have the adjectives, linked to the character. So, Amari, like write her name, Amari, strong-willed, pretty, smart. Polly, pretty, smart, strong. Clay, devious, something like that. So yeah, so just 5 adjectives. It's describing the character. It could describe a story. It can even describe a situation. Like you want to talk about the baby, what happened to the baby with the baby dying. That was sad, tragic. All those words describe the situation. So we need 5 adjectives. We need a quotation with the page number. So, which this is going to be, I would probably just go to the Copper Sun PDF that you Google, and that will show you, about what page it's on. But yeah, just go there, find a quotation from a character that just kind of exemplifies that character or that story or that situation. Explain the quote. Why is the quote important? So you need to have a quotation. Somebody's quoting something, and why is that quote important? All right. A high level question. So you can't just be, how old is Amari? 15. No, it has to be a high level question. It has to be a question like, why did Mr. Derby treat his slaves with such hatred or indifference? All right. It has to be something like that. One of those types of questions. And then you have to answer that question. You have to give a significant answer. It can't be 1-2 word answers. You have to, it may be 2 or 3 sentences to your answer, which is fine. Just make sure it's a high level answer to your high level question. Okay, if that makes sense. You just can't have just simple questions like, oh, how old is she? Where did they go when they left the village? Oh, they went to Cape Coast. Like, it can't be like, why were the conditions of Cape Coast so bad? All right, the conditions of Cape Coast were so bad because the people at the slavers did not think that the Africans were actual human beings. They treated them more like animals because they didn't think they had feelings like actual human beings. Boom. All right, something like that. Don't use that. All right, we will know. But yeah, it's something like that, similar to that. You'll need 3 symbols or pictures. All right, and you need to explain those symbols, why they are important. So again, any pictures from the story. The obvious one would be the copper sun. Explain why that's important. But you can come up with at least three pictures of symbols. Some of you may want to come up with more, which is fine. We only need 3. We only want 3 with the explanation of symbols. If you do a little bit more, for me, that's fine. Give a summary of your story. It has to be in about 4 paragraphs. Remember, 4 paragraphs. A paragraph is about 5 sentences. Okay, we need 4 of those. So it's not just a quick summary of it. This African girl goes to America, and then she escapes with a white girl and a little boy. That's not going to cut it. We need you to actually summarize. So it's 4 paragraphs. Break it down. Everything that happens from Africa to the slave ship. Everything that happens from the slave ship to the plantation, everything that happens from the plantation to the time they leave, everything that happens from when they leave to get to Fort Mose. All right, that's 4 paragraphs. So maybe more than 5 sentences, but give us a really good summary. All right, words spell correctly, good punctuation, capitalization, all of that. We'll be looking at that when we grade that. Okay, because again, you're going into high school next year, they will be looking at those things. And we've noticed a lot of you guys get lazy, don't like capitalizing words. Make sure you are using capitalization. All right, so also have your name, your class period on the paper somewhere, so we know that is yours, obviously. Although we know you'll be emailing it to us, but you know the routine. Now, if you are missing, if you look here, if you're missing one component, you'll only get 4 points. If you have all these things here, you automatically get 5. If you're missing 1, it's 4. If you're missing 2, it's 3. If you're missing 3 components, it's 2 points. If you miss 4, it's 1. And if you miss 5 or more, you won't get points for this category. So make sure you look at this, check it off, get it all done. This here is just saying we want summary. We want specific details about the plot, specific details about characters, main ideas, the problem or problems that the main character face. It includes what happened at the end of the novel. So you have to have all of that. And again, me and Mrs. Pottenberg will have this up on our LMS pages. So I'm going over it pretty fast now, but don't worry about that. Like, you'll see it. And again, if you have 1 or 2 errors, you'll see here how many points you'll start missing. Okay, so you have to have all of this to get all 5 of your points. So 0 to 1 error. All right, so if you only got 1 error, but everything looks really good, it's likely that you still get all points for it. All right, make sure you're going into great detail about your depth in the summary. Depth of the quote. Student went into great detail. Make sure you use adjectives where needed when explaining the quotation that you chose. Make sure you always use correct spelling. You guys are doing this on a computer. I mean, you got your computer, your phone next to you. Google words if you don't know how to spell it. Say it in your phone. You guys know how to do that. Real simple. Make sure you're spelling it right. Make sure in-depth just basically means that you're going above and beyond when describing and convincing the reader that you understand what you read. Okay, so just give me exactly what this quote means. Go into detail about it. Show me your depth. All right. Same thing for the depth of the answer. The symbols that you chose, we want pretty good symbols and pretty good explanations for your symbols. And your overall appearance has to be neat, balanced, colorful, and eye appealing. Okay. So all of that will go to, your quote unquote grade for the story. That's the rubric. Me and Mrs. Pottenberg will have this up on the LMS, so don't trip. I went over it pretty fast. But yeah, you'll have it up to look at. So any questions, again, please email us, inbox us. We'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. And my time's almost up, so I'm out. Talk to y'all later. Deuces.